Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for downloading episode 137 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Los Angeles, West Coast. Finally, we are doing our first LA show. We're so excited about it, and we're doing it with our podcast twinsies, Can I Pet Your Dog? It's all going down on Sunday, November 5th at 7 p.m. at the Moroccan Lounge that is in downtown Los Angeles. Just go to our Facebook group for info because you get $5 off your tickets if you order them online and early. Go to facebook.com/groups/We Got This Podcast and then go to events. Click events on the left-hand side. All the information's there. Or you can go to my website, hallublin.com/live. You'll see a link there to buy tickets too. Our special guest for the show will be none other than Lil Janet Varney. We're so excited to finally do the show live in our hometown, and we hope you can join us. And don't forget, the day before that evening, the 4th of November, is going to be the Thrilling Adventure Hour benefit. So if you're coming into town for that, stay just a little bit longer for our show. You'll be glad you did. But for now, please enjoy episode 137 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all, Best Children's Show.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Hal, do you have your cereal?
Yes, I have my cereal.
Is there milk in it?
Yeah, it's been in there for a while because I like it mushy and then I drink it all.
All right. You have your PJs on?
I do, because I always wear PJs all the time because I'm a 40-year-old man who refuses to grow up.
You know what?
Yeah.
Welcome to our Comic-Con life.
Thanks. Is that what you think Comic-Cons are?
Yeah, 40-year-old men who don't want to grow up. That's what I am nearing, if not there, and that's what most of the time is spent doing there, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not wrong.
Whatever.
I'm not judging.
You're going to take a lot of flack for that I'm going to have to deal with online because you don't get on Facebook. But whatever. We're talking about kids shows. This is suggested by Robert Monroe via email. I think this was probably suggested close to when we started the show. So thanks for being patient, Robert.
Yes. Thank you, Robert. And we are not alone to talk kids shows.
No.
Because between the two of us, we could not watch every kids show.
No.
But between the four of us, we can.
That's right. We've covered it all. Our guests are, I would say, 1/3 of the first family of podcasting. And they are the co-hosts of Sawbones. And not only that, but they're parents, so they get to bring unique perspective to it. It's Justin and Sydney McElroy. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be here.
We were supposed to be on the show when we were on the cruise together.
Yes,
but
I remember.
I got really bad diarrhea.
Yes, you did.
and didn't tell anybody.
You know, folks,
Because he was on a cruise ship, so he couldn't.
Podcasting ain't that strenuous. So if you have diarrhea that's so bad you can't podcast, that's pretty bad diarrhea.
That's right. If you had told someone on the ship, would they have put you in the brig? What would they have done?
I heard that happen to people, and I'm no joke, and I'm not going to go to the brig. I had a 3-year-old daughter. I'm not going to the brig.
You did self-quarantine. It was very responsible of you.
I sat in the room and watched The Martian on loop.
How many viewings did you make it through?
Like 3.5. I was dozing in and out.
You just keep waking up at that time on those scenes where he's fertilizing the plants. You just keep waking up. Why is it always this scene?
You know what though? Good flick.
It holds up even when you have diarrhea and you watch it 3.5 times. It's still good.
Yeah, pretty conclusively at this point. Good flick.
Oh no, it looped 3 times. But if you've got diarrhea, that means you probably saw an hour and a half of that 3-time loop.
Yeah.
But you heard the rest.
Sure.
You have to be able to really
the rooms ain't that big.
Yeah, that's right. You can see it. You just need 2 mirrors and then you're all set.
So thank you for joining us for this ever important topic. As we do many times on this show, we'll just sort of make sure our audience knows your children's show bona fides, if you will. Do you guys watch a lot of children's programming? you've got a 3-year-old.
They aren't allowed to watch anything else. I mean, at this point.
Yeah, if she's awake, yeah. Well, I mean, not that all that she does is watch TV, but if we're watching television, it's children's programming the vast majority of the time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's 3.
If we have time usually for like one show at night after she's gone to bed and we're not like recording or researching or whatever. So that's like really appointment viewing. But the vast majority of our TV intake is children's programming.
And did you watch a lot of TV as children as well? Because then you're bringing 2 generations worth of knowledge into this.
I did a lot. Sydney, I don't think as much. When Sydney and I got together, I had to like, if I may say, very patiently explain to her why you're not allowed to watch TV episodes out of order, and you can't just sit down and start watching a show midway through a series, and why we'll go get the DVDs and we'll watch it in order, and you can't just like watch one.
Or midway through an episode, which I would do.
Oh yeah. Wait, you would watch like fictional television, you would just start an episode halfway through and be like, I'll catch up.
Sure.
Have you ever seen a Game of Thrones before? No, but I can catch up. I'll start 20 minutes in.
Actually, that almost happened to me. I was, while Justin was out of town, Charlie and I went and stayed with my parents, and they were watching Game of Thrones. This was just 3 weeks ago, something like that, or whatever. And anyway, they turned it on because they watch it, and I was just sitting there with them, and I was like, well, I'll watch. I've never seen it before. I don't know anything about it other than what just kind of seeps into my pop culture
I would have
consciousness.
left a Justin-shaped hole in the plate glass window. If that is like, hey, you missed the last 10 minutes of the last Game of Thrones. You want to start the next one? Pshing! That's me going through the window. Gone.
Oh, man. Let me ask you this, Justin. Because I am this way. If I get to a movie late, I just won't see it.
Just won't go in.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go see it another time.
I'll do that if I'm going to miss most of the trailers. I'll miss a trailer. But yeah, I don't go late.
My wife, Jennifer, does not she had to learn just because she married me. And that's the lot she stuck with, that like, we need to get to the movies. If it says like 2:30, what if this is the movie theater that actually starts on time? We don't want to miss any of the trailers. So let's get there like 5 minutes before. Let's just get there. Then, you know what? It's just 5 minutes, and then we're seated for 5 minutes in the theater. I don't mean like we get there. It's a 2:30 movie. You got to be there like 2:15 to get snacks and stuff.
Hey, sit down for this one. The last time I went to the movies to go see Leap with my daughter, I don't get to see adult movies anymore. I went to go see Leap with my daughter. There was an older couple in front of us, and they were, I hope you guys are sitting down.
I am.
They were looking at the board that showed the times of the movies and trying to pick something to see. Are you kidding me?
No, who does that?
Now? You're making this decision now? You just went to the movies to see a movie? If there's one starting soon, are you kidding me?
I hope they were taken to the movie brig.
Yeah, movie jail.
Well, because they had all that diarrhea.
Yeah. That's where we kept Brendan Fraser all these years.
Is that what happened to him?
That's what happened to him.
He said movie jail.
Yeah. That's okay. They fixed his Mummy franchise by giving it to Tom Cruise.
Yeah. He's like Sisyphus, except he just has diarrhea all the time.
Look, man, if you were pushing a rock up a hill and you had diarrhea, that would be a strain, I think. That would be a dangerous strain. But you guys, we're not here to talk about diarrhea.
Aren't we?
Right.
Yeah. We're here to talk about... look, that's for our next episode. Number 1, number 2, or number 3.
Yeah. Well, let's go inside baseball then, because there was a conversation that happened via text where we were trying to determine, well, how are we going to tackle this? Because kids show is a very wide range of programming. And you could probably divide it into 2 halves. There's educational programming and entertainment programming. So I was like, let's just do educational. And Justin was like, hold on. No. Let's do all of it. But you had a good point, Justin, which I'll let you make here for the people who don't text with the 2 of us.
Well, there's a few of you that weren't on that text chain with us.
Sorry, guys.
Big group text.
Should have left the conversation. It got good after you went.
Everybody has left the conversation.
For me as a parent now, and I wouldn't have thought of it this way when I was younger, but for me as a parent now, I tend to look at everything that she watches as like educational in a sense, where it may not be like reading and math and numbers, but a lot of the stuff that we really like her to watch is stuff that is educational from like an ethical perspective or a moral perspective or a values perspective. You know, things that like, you know, oh, this reflects our values. This reflects how we see the world. And this is the kind of thing that we want her to be exposed to.
And I feel like an extra layer of responsibility of that sometimes because we have a daughter and there's so much like very kind of old fashioned, these like girly images that are still out there, like princess themed stuff that perpetuates these images of this is what girls are and this is all they can be. And that I'm very conscious of now, even more so than I ever was before.
So in this scenario, like, would you say something like Elena of Avalor is more like the girls are princesses versus Doc McStuffins, where she is a medical professional who tends to stuffed animals? Or
Professional?
Yes, she's a doctor.
Man, I got a sneaking suspicion that Doc McStuffins is playing pretend.
I don't know.
You got to read between the lines, right? There's a lot of clues in there.
Yeah, follow the money, dude.
Yeah.
That's tough though, because definitely I like Doc McStuffins for that reason. But then you look at like Elena of Avalor, and we watched that one, and she is a princess, and it's still definitely, she wears beautiful dresses and all the princess stuff, but she also like sword fights and she runs the kingdom on her own. And she has a lot of traits that you didn't used to see, I think, back when I was younger, and like princesses. She's a little arrogant. She's kind of brash.
Not on her own. She has a cat. This is the thing there. The patriarchy still told Elena of Avalor that she had to be a crown princess instead of being, as she sings, ready to rule. She still has like a council of advisors and her abuela and her uncle.
But that's mainly because she's 15.
That's okay. That's fine. But she's been locked in a portrait for like 40 years. So actually she's 55.
Okay. It was an amulet, not a portrait. The rest of her family was trapped in a portrait.
Okay.
Let's get it right.
And I thought Sophia the First had the amulet.
Okay.
That's the amulet that Elena was locked in.
Is it?
I didn't realize that these universes collide.
Oh, for sure. This is okay. So Elena of Avalor was trapped in an amulet, Princess Sophia's amulet, and that was actually like, it was technically a spin-off event that went unaired. What is it, like the Mystery of Avalor or something like
Secret
that?
of Avalor.
Secret of Avalor.
That's why Sophia found it was her job to unlock that mystery and save Elena.
And then Elena took her kingdom back by force, and it ruled.
She led a revolution of the people. It was amazing.
Yeah,
and that's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like the Khaleesi. She has 3 dragons.
She's like a very good, of the Prince-Eye, she's like a very good one. She's like has a lot of really, I think, good qualities. The songs are all really great. And it's very entertaining. As an adult, it's like I have been brought to tears by There's a Day of the Dead episode. Wow, delicious. Right. Just beautiful. Sobbing.
This does seem like a trend now, because there is also Star versus the Forces of Evil, where Star is Star Butterfly, a princess from another realm, is living in modern day America and is taking it is her job to defend the world from the forces of evil, and she has a Marco, her best friend in distress. So I do like that all of the princesses are starting to get some amazing superpowers, and like
it does start to feel a little bit like Have Your Cake and Eat It Too. Like there's a show that we've only watched a couple times called Nella the Princess Knight. And it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Like, you know, as like these large companies have their head on a swivel enough to know that like they are not going to be able to just do the usual princesses and get like the broadest sort of range of audience. It can feel a little bit, I don't think this is the case with Star, but like some of these shows can feel a bit craven with like the, like, oh no, I know she's a princess for sure. Yeah, definitely a princess, but also she's got a gun.
Yes.
I don't think any.
Do you guys watch Gun Princess?
Good.
Oh man.
TM. That sounds like, I'm sure that's an anime.
But it's definitely better than, there was some sort of animated storybook thing that Justin found for Charlie to watch at some point that was all of the princesses, like the classic Disney princesses, having a tea party, and they're very stressed out about throwing the perfect tea party and whether or not their prince husbands will be excited about their tea party. And I mean,
they sing song, like who sings the one song about
I think Ariel does.
Ariel sings a song about importance of manners. Like, are you kidding me? She put a fork in her hair. Like, I'm seriously going to take manners advice from her.
Do you think that children's shows over the years have gotten better or worse?
I would argue better, because I would say that
this particular element is a big plus.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I think by and large also there are many fewer shows now. Like when I was growing up in the 80s, there were a lot of shows that were designed just to sell toys. And like, I'm not saying that is not the case anymore, but I don't think you see, I don't think it's built that way. I think the shows are built first and then they get popular and then the toys follow suit. But like, you have shows in my era that even the ones that are fondly remembered, but like G.I. Joe, Voltron, Transformers, like they were designed to build He-Man. They're designed to build toys.
Yeah. And the toys came first for most of those, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're complete fluff. I mean, you're not going to get anything useful to really like chew on from a cerebral perspective from a lot of those shows. And I would say that would be an anomaly.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that is one of the criteria we should look at, is this sort of brain food, something to chew on for a children's show? I guess ideally whatever children's show winds up winning will ultimately have an educational element and some sort of meat to it. It's not going to be cake. There's going to be some bread. Like you mentioned Steven Universe before when we were texting, as a show that is like, this teaches good morals, and Sesame Street teaches numbers and letters, and as long as there's some sort of cerebral, oh, that's a thing I need to recognize.
Yeah, I think that's essential, because especially there's so much talk about making sure you limit screen time and that screen time is worthwhile when it's there and that you're participating as a parent. I think it has to be, if it's going to win in children's programming, there has to be some element to it.
I agree with that. Before I concede it though, I do want to give a special diversionary shout out to the shows that I watched growing up that I felt like did not have any sort of, I did not learn values, I did not learn morals, but definitely like helped shape my sense of humor, which I wouldn't necessarily fold in like educational, but definitely like shows like Animaniacs or Pete and Pete, I think were two, where it's like, oh, you can do stuff like this. Like this is something that you can do. Like as somebody who grew up a lot from my dad watching MST3K, Kids in the Hall, like old SNL stuff like that, like seeing that stuff refracted through the lens of children's program was like very, very impactful for me. And definitely like with shows like Animaniacs, you go back and watch it now and we have, there are cultural references in that like would have been 40 years old when I was a kid. I mean, it's like completely just writers trying to entertain their dads, I think.
I would put Animaniacs up there because I don't think that it's I mean, first of all, I don't think that anything that crafts your comic voice is fluff. But also Animaniacs taught. They had all those songs. I've just reintroduced myself in the last month to Animaniacs. Yep. And
it's true. Educational tunes were definitely a part of Animaniacs.
I learned every country. For some reason, Gambia, Guinea, Algeria, Ghana, that phrase stuck in my head. So I know that those countries are all apparently near each other.
I would like to give a shout out to G.I. Joe, which I know is not going to win. And I watched it. I remember when it debuted and they showed, I think it feels like for a week they showed the pilot every afternoon and I was there for it. Like maybe I'll see something new this time. Maybe this time Cobra will hit them with their lasers. But if you want to tell me that barbecue coming up and showing you not to touch a live wire that's fallen on the street isn't educational and helping you become a better person, then I don't know what to tell you.
I remember more of the knowing is half the battle segments from G.I. Joe than I remember of the actual show.
Yeah, don't get in that van.
It is like it's troubling subtextually for like, this is designed for latchkey kids who we assume we're just not getting basic human like, don't touch a live wire. How did you make it this far? Honestly.
And meanwhile, here's 20 minutes of undisciplined dudes going after an elite fighting force.
That's a pretty cool knife, kid, but try to keep it out of your leg.
Hey, when you're finished heating up your own dinner, maybe don't jump down in that ravine. I'm gung-ho.
Hey, I'm Bazooka. Today I'm going to tell you how to get in the middle and teach your parents not to fight so much because it's starting to hurt your feelings.
Just spitballing here. Maybe it is your fault. Here's some things you can do to be better in the family dynamic.
Oh, God.
I didn't watch G.I. Joe. Was this on there? I missed all this.
For sure. This is like that was like the hallmark.
I feel like G.I. Joe at some point had to team up with Dare. Did they team up with Dare?
I'm sure they did.
Probably.
Probably.
Sergeant Slaughter would be like, "You're a maggot if you do drugs." Like
Dare, the only T-shirt that was ever worn, ironically, the day that it was given to you.
I think there are also some shorter segments of television. Specifically, I'm thinking about Schoolhouse Rock, which is not a 30-minute program, but also like they're really great shorts. I feel like the winner has to be at least a 22-minute television program.
Yeah.
Would you all agree?
Sure.
I was going to mention Mortimer Ichabod Marker, but also there are other reasons that is not on the list.
Yeah. There's also a lot of stuff. We talked about better or worse from now till today. I think that animated series are definitely 100% better.
Right.
But if you look at live action stuff, and I'm not going to say like better or worse, but God, there are some bananas things that we got exposed to as kids that are just like so completely out there. It is so obviously like drugged out dudes just like trying to get a TV show together with $100,000 that Canadian Broadcasting Company gave them. Like, you look at a show like Today's Special.
Oh my God!
I was
hoping
just
you'd
going
bring
to
that up.
mention
I was
Today's
hoping you'd
Special.
bring it up.
Shout it loud and clear, brother.
If I was to tell you, hi, I'd like to pitch a new show. This is the show. After a department store closes, a woman named Jody puts a magical hat on a mannequin named Jeff, and she hangs out with him. But if she takes the hat off, he dies. Also, there's a security guard. And did I mention the other two people were humans and he's a puppet? I have no explanation for this. Also, there's a mouse. Anyway, can I have some money to do my show? Like, absolutely not. You most certainly cannot have.
Wait a minute. How about if the mouse rhymes every sentence?
Okay, well now I'm
Also, let me just put a bow on it. The security guard has a sliver-like control room where he watches everything on screens and talks to a
Did I
female
mention that?
computer.
Did I mention that?
I think they had to figure back then, though, there wasn't as much children's programming. There weren't as many shows aimed at kids.
So they could make terrible stuff?
Exactly. Kids just have to watch it because it's like, well, at least it's not that boring crap my parents watch. Whereas now they have multiple channels all day long, 24 hours a day dedicated to stuff they like.
Right, yeah.
You know, plus all the streaming.
I
so.
do want to point out that series ends the way another one of my favorite children's series ends, which is with everything being packed up in a box, being sent out, which my other favorite children's series, Amigos, which starred a young Mark Gagliardi trying to teach Spanish to children in Tennessee.
Hey, to children all over
Sorry.
the country, my friend.
All over the country.
This was PBS.
This is everywhere. This is on PBS. But it ended with all the kids being packed into boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, we were being shanghaied. We were going to do a series where we taught kids Mandarin, so they had to get us to China.
Oh my goodness. So there was, like there was like a weird, I went to watch a clip of it because I hadn't seen Today's Special, obviously, since I was a kid. It's not like anybody's buying that DVD collector set.
I'm not going to lie. I watched an episode of Today's Special having nothing to do with this episode.
What were you watching? Jeff's Visit about alcoholism?
No, I was just on a kick where I was like, I'm going to watch all my old Nickelodeon shows from when I was a kid. And I watched You Can't Do That on Television, which I would like to get back to because that is another great. But I didn't mean to interrupt you, Hal. You were saying.
No, I want to hear what Justin's about to say because you brought up You Can't Do That on Television.
Oh, go on.
Been revisiting a lot of those shows that we used to watch when we were younger to see them through the eyes of our daughter. And you mentioned like watching a whole episode. I don't think we've made it that far on any of them. Like there's definitely a look of like just dawning a horror. Like this was nothing. I don't know why we have such fond memories for this. There's nothing.
And I don't know if Charlie has developed like a sophisticated taste in animation or something, but there's a lot of them that 30 seconds in, she's like, this looks weird. I don't like this.
It's weird. I hate it.
This old Danger Mouse looks super British.
She's super.
It's one of her main
Yeah,
complaints.
she's totally a nationalist. What are her favorite shows?
Right now, she's watching a lot of Teen Titans
Go.
Teen Titans Go.
Teen Titans
Great
Go.
show.
Yeah, sorry.
Does not enjoy Teen Titans.
No.
Loves Teen Titans Go.
No.
Sydney and I have had extensive conversations about Teen Titans Go, trying to pick our favorite episodes.
Yes.
We've seen all of them at this point
Uh-huh.
multiple times. We have detailed power rankings for different episodes. The most prominent right now is The Night Begins to Shine, which, Sydney, can you talk about The Night Begins to
I
Shine?
don't even know how to describe it. It's a 4-part episode arc about Cyborg's obsession with this song, The Night Begins to Shine, by a band, BER, which, as far as we can tell, is not a real band.
Yeah, it's
Right?
invented for the show, as near as we can tell.
Yeah. And the song transports him to a magical world where everything is rad.
Yeah,
And-
and everything's 80s influence. And the song is very 80s, heavily 80s influence. And like the plot of the original episode that this 4-part miniseries was spun off of, the plot is that Cyborg has to listen to this song. He gets so obsessed with the song that if he doesn't listen to it, he can't do anything super. He basically loses his powers if he's not listening to the song. So he listens to it so much that everybody gets sick of it and wants him to never play it again. But then he eventually realizes that, like, it's fine to use music to inspire you, whatever. But our daughter became so obsessed with The Night Begins to Shine, the song, and also became able to demand it from Alexa at a moment's notice, that we realized eventually, like, we are living this episode. Like, she
Well-
won't do anything unless she's listening to
It's-
The Night Begins to Shine.
It's further. She's incorporated it into all of our play. Any imaginative play that we're engaging in, it ends with there's someone who's bad and she makes them good by singing this song at them.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's,
If y'all haven't checked out the song, though, it is very good.
yeah.
It's a very good
We have to
song.
find out who wrote the
I
song.
think
Do you know
it's
who
me.
wrote the song?
BER.
BER.
It's a fake band that made up of real studio musicians, as near as I can tell.
So this is like, so it wasn't like BER is a fictional thing and like the show has someone who writes all its songs.
I think these guys actually, okay, this is the timeline as I understand it. These guys who I think are just studio musicians wrote the song. They licensed the song for one episode of Teen Titans Go. They became obsessed with it enough that they wrote an entire episode about it, and in doing so, built a fictional band, BER, around these studio musicians.
Yeah, the letters BER are just the initials of each member of the band.
Gotcha.
Right.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
And they become prominent figures in the episodes, and the new miniseries has like Fall Out Boy and CeeLo all doing The Night Begins to Shine.
Wow.
It's really excellent. But anyway, I love Teen Titans. It's hysterical. Sometimes Teen Titans will do, the stuff I love about Teen Titans is they will do entire episodes that are, there's an episode where Beast Boy, gets hair under his armpits and decides he needs to become a man. And for him, that means, going to find his spirit animal, which means studying with a bunch of bears. And the bears just want to party and they never want to teach him anything, except he's already paid, thousands of pots of honey to go learn from the bears. And what this episode is an extended 11-minute metaphor on the value, like the value of real world experience versus, getting a higher education. And it is like a protracted metaphor about that. There is one episode that is just about Robin explaining the value of investing in real estate.
So your daughter finds these relatable.
Yeah, she's really,
Yeah.
she gets it. Yeah.
She watches them though. We watched that one, the real estate one, today, and she was.
Oh, I
Did she
missed
make
it.
you read
Yeah,
Rich
she was
Dad,
locked
Poor
on.
Dad as she's going to sleep at night?
What can we talk about? Another show you mentioned is Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which I watched, and I have a theory. I want to float it out there and see if it holds water with the three of you. I
Okay.
would contend, based simply even on just the opening, and I did watch beyond it, that what happened was that Fred Rogers did not pass away of old age or illness, but that he was killed by Daniel Tiger, who has single white femaled him and taken his place, which is why he tosses the shoe and he does this just like he learned from Fred, and that's like somewhere, probably under that bench or in the closet where the sweaters are kept,
Mhm.
are the remains of Fred
It's
Rogers.
it's in the bench. It's just like in Rope.
Yes.
He just wanted to feel like he invites people over because the thrill of getting away with it excites him.
Hey, get on the trolley. The trolley can't tell you what it knows.
I have not seen this show. Is the alcoholic Elaine Stritch on this one too?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
They've toned down a lot of the scarier. Sydney, can you pitch Daniel? Can you elevator pitch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood?
I really like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. And I mean, I will say I was a big fan of Mr. Rogers when I was a kid. And so I think part of it was just, oh, this is such a, nostalgic thing for me. This is the land of make-believe. And that's the whole show. It's an animated land of make-believe, and you follow Daniel Tiger and all his friends, and all the old characters from the land of make-believe are there. It's just now their kids are there too, and they're the focus of the show. And it's largely about like emotional intelligence, like how to express your feelings, and they get sad, or they get angry, or they get frustrated, and then there's little jingles that the kids sing over and over and over again to teach you how to deal with these emotions.
And they become like really powerful as a parent because you can just I'm trying to think. I'm suddenly blanking on.
If you have to go potty, stop and go right away.
Yeah.
That one, we use that a lot.
Use your words. That's a good one.
You guys mentioned, because of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, obviously, you mentioned Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, I know we're talking about children's shows today. I don't know if that show will win, but that show is it has to, I feel like, at least make the Mount Rushmore. We're going to chip 3 of them down and leave only one president up there. But, since we're looking for the one best, I feel like can we start pulling things to the finals?
I think we can start extracting ones that are of note. And
Sure.
Mr. Rogers, you talk about Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood being about emotional intelligence, which is exactly what I was thinking Mr. Rogers is about. So the Daniel Tiger episode I saw, Daniel was riding a horse for the first time and was afraid because it's high up. So his father was singing to him about how when you're scared, you can hold somebody's hand and feel better. Not only did I almost tear up at work, but I'd also it got me thinking holding somebody's hand is really important because you know that somebody's there. Like, why does that make you feel better when you're scared? Because you know you're not alone and somebody's there to help keep you grounded. And that is continuing the work of Mr. Rogers, who, in one of the greatest final gifts a human can give, left instructions for parents on how to explain to their children that he had passed away and that he was still going to be on television.
Make me cry right now.
And everything that he did for the almost 40 years or 30 plus at least that he was on the air was not only about here's how pretzels are made. And here's there's one where he plays Miss Pac-Man, and it's like I'm at an arcade. It's just like a Miss Pac-Man.
He doesn't speak, and it's just a half hour of that, but it's like very good.
It's just him in the background in King of Kong.
Yeah, Handyman Negri puts his quarter up on the screen because he's next. But that show was just as much about emotional intelligence and being okay to cry and how to deal with being a child of divorce. Just
I think that's incredible. I think that's fair to put that on the final list as opposed to Daniel Tiger, because it's based on Daniel Tiger's very smart updating of those same lessons, and I think probably somewhat updating the lessons themselves to a broader range of, it's condensed, but I think that I think that Mr. Rogers was in the game for so long and touched so many people. I think it is a very convincing argument.
Yeah, that'd be a top pick for me. Yeah. It's way up there.
Yeah. Did anybody else equate it with dinner? Because for me, after Mr. Rogers was when dinner happened, so I would smell dinner being made as I was watching the show. So now I still have a Pavlovian response of drooling as I watch Mr. Rogers because I think I'm going to get a treat at the end.
But it's going to be placed on your nose, and you're going to have to wait a second before you.
Oh,
snatch
I'll wait.
It.
I'm going to wait because I know you're going to tell me go.
Because you're a good boy,
and then I'm going to throw it. I am a good boy.
All right. While we're doing this, since we've broken the seal on placing shows into the top tier, the upper echelon of children's shows, do we have any? I mean, we can go through. We can go through category by category and type of show and pull some out if you guys want to do that. Or we could just launch right in and say, these are the ones that I think are the contenders. Then we can start looking at criteria. Does that work for you guys?
Sure. Yeah.
Does this mean we're not going to talk about Pinwheel or the Great Space Coaster?
Can I tell you something about Pinwheel? Pinwheel, for those who don't know,
break the news to him, gentle Mark.
was a show that was on in the 80s. It's not on the air anymore, Hal. I'm just ripping that Band-Aid off, Justin. But Pinwheel, you can find it online. When I was a kid, Pinwheel was on Nickelodeon, and my sister loved it, and that was her show. And my mom would always say, all right, boys, you can watch your shows as soon as your sister's done watching Pinwheel. What my mom didn't realize was at least it felt in my child brain like this. I feel like they played 3 Pinwheel episodes in a row every day on Nickelodeon. So it was as soon as your sister's done watching her 3 hours of television, then you guys can have half an hour for today's special, which is really, you don't even need that long.
I did like that Pinwheel had those Paddington Bear segments. Had like a bunch of short film segments in it, but
Calliope, another great little segment in there.
I had forgotten until I watched the clip today that Snail, who the entire series is trying to get to the annual meeting of the snails, and never makes it that far because snails are slow, but looks like a nightmare. Like if I put on a German film designed to strike fear into the hearts of anyone who watched it, it would just be that snail slowly moving through the garden, like dead face, 1,000-yard stare, accordion arms, but like a clown face also, and wearing a top hat, like just a nightmare of a puppet. How did we as children not revolt that this was presented as like, this is okay, here's your friend, your buddy, the snail's here?
Because they had the dumb idea of doing an entire network for kids. Oh, God, I just loaded a picture of it. Ha cha cha.
See?
Savagery. That's terrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now as well. Also, I'm looking at the lyrics. Do you guys remember the Pinwheel theme song?
Sure. Pinwheel, pinwheel, spinning around.
Look at my pinwheel and see what I found. Pinwheel, pinwheel, where have you been? Hello, how are you? And may I come in?
Death snail. That's the end of the song.
Death snail. For some reason, even the word pinwheel makes me think of that song. Like, I don't know how often I say the word pinwheel.
Yeah.
Except thousands of times as a child. But that's one of those great theme songs that I just wanted to throw that out there. Apropos of nothing, the theme song to Pinwheel is really good. It's not going to
It's up there with Eureka's Castle in theme songs that like get me moving.
Which one?
That one? That gets me John. Eureka's Castle is about a dinosaur that lived in a castle. Okay.
It was a music box that a giant had.
That a giant had.
Was this a puppet show?
Yeah, and a wizard lived in it with a giant dragon named Magellan.
I remember this.
Who had friends that were dots. Like, what were you all doing back then?
It's getting, as I start remembering, it's getting crazier.
These are the heirs to the Sid and Marty Krofft shows.
Yeah.
Is anything from the Sid and Marty Krofft collection going to make it into the finals of this? They had a heck of a run.
It was just sort of a weird, like, nothing that they did. It was all a little bit early for me, and I know they kept going with stuff, but like the early stuff I found horrifying. Yeah. Like Lisville and stuff like that, I found like super upsetting.
Which is just a bunch of terrifying hats.
Right. They still are doing a show with, the Dog Whisperer's son.
Really?
Yeah, Mutton Stuff is with Caesar's son, Calvin Milan. And it's about, like dog puppets. Oh, no. It's whack. I'm sorry. I changed it instantly.
That sounds terrible.
Nothing.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. I don't need any thanks. I'm full.
All right.
Yeah, that's all too frightening.
Do we want to give any other shout outs to shows that we loved as kids that are not going to be that we all know are not going to be on our final list? Hal apparently loves Pinwheel.
I loved Rescue Rangers. I don't know if that would be on our list,
great show.
but because I just personally loved it, and I don't know that it educated me other than, I felt empowered that a woman could be a mechanic and a mouse and wear a cool purple jumpsuit, and it was fine. I don't know if it was more educational beyond that, but it was just always one of my.
You mentioned Clarissa also, like, those.
Yeah, Clarissa Explains It All. Yeah, that was way up there for me.
That one feels like it's like if we're talking about a kid show, That one feels like it's like 12, maybe it's 10 to 13. Is that really the sweet spot?
It's like a tween show.
I would put like a lot of the stuff that was on Snick into that category. Pete and Pete, I would definitely classify as like more preteen than necessarily a kid's show.
Or like Are You Afraid of the Dark, which is a great preteen show, but not a kid's show.
That was a great era that they had. Snick was a great
Yeah, it
was Hey Dude in that?
Yeah.
Salute Your Shorts.
Yeah.
Shorts, and they had like Roundhouse, all that.
All that.
A ton of great stuff.
Let's talk about all that for a second. Because as a kid who loved Saturday Night Live, I was like, wait a minute. There's kids doing this? There was nothing I wanted more in my life.
I'm older than you enough that I watched it and went, just missed it. Could have been on it. Just missed it. Now I'm in college. And I'm jealous of kids. This is
Who is this Kenan Thompson? He'll never amount to anything.
Yeah, Keenan and Kel. More like who and who.
Amanda Bynes. Psh, you're going nowhere.
No one will be talking about her, but when we're all adults. Certainly not. The Great Space Coaster is a fun one that I feel like people have fond memories of, but is again like lots of creepy kind of puppets. There was another one that's the Candy Apple News Network I used to watch as a kid that I don't think anybody else saw.
The Candy Apple News Network.
I sometimes wonder if I did make it up. One time I had a really bad fever as a child, and I swore that a knight walked into my bedroom and laid a head down on the ladder of my bunk bed. Can't prove it, but it felt real to me. Still,
but I reported it to Candy Apple News, and they reported it on their television show.
Yeah, it was on the Candy Apple News Network. I don't know. Nobody picked that up? Nobody saw it? Jeez.
Candy Apple. What?
I don't remember that at all.
That might not exist.
Now, what was the one that had like Palabra Jot and stuff like that? Was that on Candy Apple News Network? That had the Right Channel. That was a weird PBS show where a little bug talked out of the Right WRITE Right Channel. It was like a lot of that like local public programming that got like elevated to syndication. There was a lot of good stuff.
You know what else we didn't mention was the Magic School Bus.
Yeah,
sure.
Oh, that's true. That's a very good one.
Yeah, we've shown that to Charlie. That actually holds up. She'll watch that now, which I was a little surprised
Pitch the Magic School Bus to everybody who has not watched it, including the one person talking to the microphone right now. I'm aware of it. I've never seen it though. Tell me about it, please.
It's Miss Frizzle teaches a class, or Miss Frizz, as I call her, the Frizz, a class of, I don't know what grade they're in. They're elementary school.
Is she a quarterback?
And she's like that really, everybody had that one really cool teacher that they remember as like, they taught me stuff, but like they were cool. She's that teacher. So it always starts with the kids in the class and like something happens that triggers a kid to say, well, why does that happen? Or what's that all about? And so they go on an adventure via a school bus that is magic to a different planet or a different time period or inside the human body. It can shrink. It can turn into a submarine. It can do all kinds of magic things. And then the kids go on an adventure to learn about whatever the Frizz wants to teach them about.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's a good shout out.
It's a classic show.
I have 4. I just want to say the names of them because they're all from before all of our times, but we should probably mention them.
These are faves of yours, or these are the ones that you think will make it into
these are the ones that I think should at least be mentioned, if nothing else.
This is Hal's Please Don't Tweet at Me.
Sure.
Please don't tweet at me. Here we go. One is Bozo the Clown, who was more of a syndicated show.
Based on Chicago.
Howdy Doody show, which is groundbreaking. Also, Winky Dink. Are you guys aware of Winky Dink?
That sounds Philadelphian.
No, Winky Dink was everywhere.
I don't know this
Winky
one.
Dink was a character that appeared on your television and would need like a bridge to get over some water. So what did you do? You slapped your magic screen on the television and drew a bridge for Winky Dink, and then Winky Dink would cross the bridge.
So kids were encouraged to smack the screen of their television?
We don't smack it. You just
get
put it up there.
real close to the TV, kids. Are you sitting close enough?
This is like the 50s. They didn't know.
Right.
They were like, just make sure there's enough lead in your water when you're going to drink it. So you would either put cellophane or you would buy a magic screen and draw for Winky Dink. Just one I wanted to throw out there. The last one I have is Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo, legend.
I watched that back in the day.
He does not seem like he's real happy to be there. Like he was this close to getting Hamlet, and instead he's Captain Kangaroo.
Sydney mouthed something to me while Hal was inventing meat.
Did you just put saran wrap on your television?
Hal's imaginary friend that forced him to write on the TV, and he's kept up the lie this many years. It was Winky Dink. I swear, you
can hear all that on the Candy Apple News Network.
What did she mouth to you?
Oh, a show we hadn't talked about yet is Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yes.
It's so
I'm going to say that one crossed my mind. I didn't want to talk about it yet because I wanted to leave it for, at least for me, I wanted to leave it for the big gun contenders.
I love it, though.
Okay. Well, that's fine. As long as it's up there, I think that's okay with me.
What about, can we talk about Zoom very quickly?
Are these more?
I just want to talk about it because I watched it
Zoom?
Today. I don't want those 5 minutes to have been in vain. Zoom is a show.
This is currently on?
The version of it I saw, no, it was on in the 90s, in the early days of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kids would submit emails, and they would submit like game ideas and recipes and different fun science activities. And the kids on the show would show you these activities. The idea being you would learn them and go do them yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go outside, hang out with your friends. So they were using the internet to keep kids off of the internet, which I thought was
smart.
It's a smart idea.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool.
It's a cool idea.
I was waiting for this to be another one of your shows on your network that you made up.
You know what?
I want to take a brief diversion before we get into the final lap here to talk about the worst television show. And I know that's not what your show is about, but I do have to mention Caillou. I've made my case for Caillou well known in pretty much every platform available, and I cannot let this opportunity slip past before we talk about how much we hate that little monster.
I don't know Caillou.
He's bald. He's a bald child.
He's a bald idiot that lives with He's a bald idiot that lives with two misshapen parents in Canada.
The thing about Caillou, I think that's so upsetting, is that he basically the story is Caillou can't do a lot of things because he's a kid, so he still has trouble with things, and so when he does, he whines about it until his mommy or daddy fix it. That's it.
That's the show. There's a bit where this little idiot, this little bald doofus, falls in some strawberries, and he gets strawberry juice on his knee, and it kind of looks like blood, so he cries for 80 straight minutes until someone comes over and, I don't know, hits him in the head with a rock. It's like, that's actual pain, Caillou. So you can tell the difference in the future. That's what pain is, Caillou. You didn't experience that when you fell on a strawberry. You pasty moron.
He's the kid who walks into the store and the store is like, oh, great, this kid. Can't wait to see what he complains about.
He's bald. Justin, look this up. Why is this kid still bald? He's bald on the show because originally when it started, he was a baby. And then as he got older, they gave him hair, but kids watching the show didn't recognize him anymore because there is nothing distinguishing about Caillou other than his bald head. And so they just made him bald again, so all the kids watching would go, oh, good, it's Caillou.
That's how much he sucks. He has to have a baby's head because everybody hates him without it. Like, I
want to see a picture of this guy.
CALL666IOU.
Pretty sure that's wrong.
Oh, God. And this theme song is, I'm just a kid who's 4. Each day I learn some more. All evidence to the contrary, by the way, Caillou, because you seem to be making the same stupid mistakes every single episode.
Oh, this kid in the blue cap. Is that him? It's a Canadian show?
This little,
and the little Mandarin collar shirt. He always wears that little.
Well, I'll have you know that he has a 4.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which seems high based on this.
Yeah, because parents notoriously hate Caillou. Kids love him. That's the thing. You can't introduce him. Once he's in your life, he's never leaving because Charlie still will go, what about Caillou? And no.
Well, most kids can't do really anything but they do have one role model where they're like, well, I got my stuff together more than Caillou. At least I'm more on top of it than Caillou. That does make me feel good. He can't do anything.
That's his sole purpose.
Oh,
just
man.
To build children up by comparison.
Yeah. There's a picture of him driving a bus. Why is he driving a bus? Look, I can't get sucked into looking at pictures of Caillou on my phone. We have work to do.
He could not string together competence long enough to drive. I would not trust him with anything more deadly than a plate of Jell-O. And even that, he'd probably fall into it and suffocate. Anyway,
and then go, really "Mommy,
Mommy."
That's every episode. Mommy,
in the Jell-O again, Mommy.
Well, you're out, whiny Caillou. And I'll tell you what, guys, before we take a crack at who is still in the top of our list, we already know that Pee-wee is in there, and we already know that Mr. Rogers is in there. We're going to take a little break and find out about some of the other excellent shows on the Maximum Fun Network. We'll be right back.
I love it.
Good stuff.
Man, every time.
Well, I hope that you're enjoying this podcast you're listening to as much as we are pretending to. But anyway, why not listen to another podcast too? It's called The Flophouse.
And on our podcast, we have recently watched a movie, often a bad movie, and we review it on our podcast, but mainly talk about other stuff and, I don't know, hang out.
It's all about hanging out, feeling like you're being with your best friends. Who are your best friends? Us three. Dan McCoy, Emmy Award-winning writer for The Daily Show, Stuart Wellington, owner of the best bar in Brooklyn, Hinterlands, and Elliot Kalin, former Emmy-winning head writer for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, former head writer of Mystery Science Theater 3000, The Return, so many things. Author of the upcoming children's book,
All right,
Dog.
that's enough.
The Elliot's credits just go on and on.
Yeah, but if you like the idea of listening to three funny guys talk about bad movies, then why not come over and listen to The Flophouse? It's available at MaximumFun.org or wherever fine podcasts are found.
So get out of here.
I'm Allegra Ringo.
And I'm Renee Colbert, and we host a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog?
Renee, can I tell you about a dog I met this week?
I wish that you would. In turn, though, can I tell you about a dog hero?
May I tell you about a dog breed in a segment I like to call Mutt Minute?
I would love that. Could we maybe talk about some dog tech?
Could we have some cool guests on, like Lin-Manuel Miranda, Nicole Byer, and Ann Wheaton?
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I'm in.
You're on board? What do you say we do all of this and put it into a podcast?
Yeah, okay.
You think? All right. Should we call it, like, I don't know, Can I Pet Your Dog?
Sure.
All right. What do you say we put it on every Tuesday on Maximum Fun?
Or on iTunes. Sounds good to me.
Meeting's over.
We're back. Let's do this.
All right. Let's give our, how do you want to do this? You want to go just around you just want to do laps and we'll each throw one in until we think we've got a good mix that everything's covered?
Sure. I think we can do 2 rounds around and that'll give us
6.
It gives us, 2 rounds around gives us 8.
8.
Because there are 4 people.
Right. No, you know what I did? Here's what I did. I looked at you and I went, Hal, Sydney, Justin, Hal, Sydney, Justin, 6.
Yeah. No, you have to get involved in this too. So people can yell at you for what we missed.
Oh, I never hear it.
True.
All right. You know what? I will start.
Go ahead.
I will start. We've already mentioned 2. So
Okay.
we have 8?
Well, that'll give us 10.
10.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to say, so the ones we already have are Mr. Rogers and Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm going to put the Mickey Mouse Club on that list.
Oh.
Multiple incarnations, one of the earliest children's shows, created a formula that I think worked for a long time. It made a star out of Annette Funicello. It made stars out of Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. It was just I realize it's maybe not the most noble, television show. Their sketches were not always great and their, pop music numbers were fun, but not terribly important, but it created so many stars. I want to put it on the list.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll go next and I'm going to throw out Mr. Wizard.
Oh, yes.
Who was a dour man, if you're not familiar with him. Don
Mr.
Herbert.
Wizard.
Yeah.
Right.
Who wore goggles and, but one time he did an experiment where he took a fish tank filled with water and then put a bunch of baby powder on top of the water. So it coated the surface, dropped a key, then went and pulled it out and his hand was dry because he never broke the surface tension of the water or whatever. And my mind was blown to this day when I think about it. It is the greatest magic trick I've ever seen. And it was friggin' science. Oh. So I want to put him on there because it's a classic show that helped encourage children to study science and fall in love with science.
Sydney, Justin?
I'm gonna have to throw out there. I think I feel cliche saying it, but we haven't talked about it yet. Is Sesame Street?
Of course,
because I mean, I don't know
It's
what
Sesame Street.
It's Sesame
It's-
Street.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. It's like, it's got research that backs it up. I like that. There's like studies that say this teaches your kid numbers and letters. This is good for them. So
Yeah, I feel like Sesame Street is the Mike Tyson in this particular Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
yeah.
Like once you get through all the other shows, you get to that one last, and can you beat it?
I am going to put up Reading Rainbow.
There it is.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Reading Rainbow is a show with LeVar Burton in it that is also educational, but celebrates laser-like reading. Just pounds you with the value of reading, celebrates authors, celebrates stories, and it's just about not education, but about developing a passion for reading, which I think is like extremely powerful. And I think is an invaluable sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't need to go around twice. If you've got more, literally all the ones that I would have put up there as the greatest have all been said.
I mean,
That's kind of
Justin, do you have more?
You're going to talk about greatest. I mean, it's really hard to beat those. I mean, like ones that I love more, and maybe are more like entertaining or like stuff like DuckTales, which is like so good, but is not necessarily going to like. As a parent, would I feel like maybe that's a decent metric. It's like, would I feel like I had done my child a disservice by not exposing them to it?
Yeah, and there's stuff like that now that I think is very educational and it's positive, and I like that Charlie watches it, like Go Diego Go or The Octonauts or Dora the Explorer, and they're good, but they're not up in this category. They're
Right.
good, solid
They're not on this
shows.
level.
They're not at this level.
And again, I would say stuff like Steven Universe is like that, where like I am I am in constant, I live in a constant state of gratitude that there's something that is as progressive in children's programming as like I feel in my day-to-day life. If you haven't looked into Steven Universe because it sounds like a kid's show, I mean, you're right. But it like so deftly touches on so many things that other kids programs like would not even veer near. And it's a beautiful, moving, powerful show, that I'm not necessarily as certain as on this tier of show, but, is
they're
pretty astounding.
Rushing it right now. Cartoon Network is a Steven Universe and Mighty Magosaurs and Teen Titans Go and We Bare Bears. They've just got like
OKKO we've been watching a lot of lately is a new one. Really good. It's about a world of heroes, basically, where everybody is trying to be a hero and has different abilities, but it's about a kid learning how to be a hero, which is very cool.
And you know what's in this same world, I think, is Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which, as a parent who has to watch shows with kids, I love Gravity Falls. I can watch that anytime. It's like sort of like Twin Peaks for kids.
Yes.
Not nearly as disturbing. Sometimes disturbing, but not as.
It's got something also that I think Steven Universe has too, which is which is not something that I think is fairly new in children's programming, but a wonderful sense of humanity. Like, it's a very humane show in a way that a lot of kids shows I think are not usually. I think a lot of times kids get an idealized version of the world that I think shows like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe and things like that are like, it's much more humanist.
They respect kids more.
Yeah,
they treat them like people and not like something different.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to add other than I just want to say that Sesame Street is obviously the best thing to come out of the Children's Television Workshop, but they had 3 other really notable shows that are not going to make this list. One is The Electric Company, which is all about reading and grammar for a slightly older audience. Yes, they have a new version. They have the rights to the show, and they have the 2009 to 2011 version. But that was a good step up. You watch Sesame Street, then you got to Electric Company, which featured Rita Moreno and Morgan Freeman. And before we knew what a horrible human being he was, Bill Cosby was also on that show. But it's worth checking out just to see what it would look like if the 70s threw up on your television.
Yeah. And Spider-Man through Spring.
Yes, Spidey. Nobody knows who you are. But the other 2 shows that came out in the 80s were 3-2-1 Contact, which is another great science program, and Square One, which is a really good math program for kids that came out like just at the edge of my watching kids television.
I loved 3-2-1 Contra.
Yeah, you had like, that was great. But Square One had Mathman and MathNet.
Yeah, I didn't care about math.
So good, right?
So good.
We're down to 6 though,
So good.
folks.
Square One is great.
Here are our final 6. Sesame Street, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Wizard, Mickey Mouse Club, and Reading Rainbow. Now, we have talked a long time about a lot of shows that we love. So we can't really delve, too entirely deep into these, I suppose, with the time we have left. But that said, now let's think about some criteria that just with those criteria in mind, we can start eliminating them. Tell me if this works for you guys. We'll think of a list of criteria that are the most important things, which we kind of touched on at the beginning. And then we will round robin eliminate them, much as we round robin added them. With a cheery send off.
Well, I think you both brought up a really good point, which is something that after you've watched it with your child, that you feel like you've done right by them as a parent. So that means that you want it to not only have good educational value, but a good sort of moral compass to it. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moral compass seems
for sure.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think is important in children's programming?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think as long as something is, it all really just comes back to that. Like, as long as something is getting learned, well, that comes back to, have I done my child a service?
I think education and values are probably the two that I would like. Yeah, you could, split it that way.
Yeah, and that kids will watch.
Yeah,
it does have to entertain them. That's a very good point.
Yeah, it does have to be entertaining.
Are there shows, by the way, that you want Charlie to watch that she's just not into, that you like wish she would be into because it meets your criteria but doesn't hold her attention?
It's usually more selfish than that. It's usually like, boy, I'd like to watch this. I wonder if I can get away with it. Hold on, let me see.
Charlie, do you like Dexter?
Hey, Charlie, do you like this new Spider-Man cartoon on Disney XD that I want to check out? Do you want to see how that is? No.
I feel like Pee-wee being on this list of finalists, that may be the only criteria that Pee-wee wins on.
And listen, guys, take it from two people that have recently rewatched the entirety of Pee-wee's Playhouse, roughly 5 or 6 times straight through.
Probably
because our
that
daughter's
many.
obsessed. The third and fourth season of that show are, some of it borders on unwatchable, because there was if you read about what was happening, they basically shot the final, I guess it would technically be the fourth and fifth, because the third season, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly.
That's the one with just one episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it got cut short because of a writer's strike. So technically the fourth and fifth season, it borders on unwatchable. There is one episode where, I kid you not, this may not all be one episode, they tend to combine in my brain, but Pee-wee leaves for like half of it to go audition for a baseball team. He's just gone. And the King of Cartoons comes and shows a cartoon, and then they're like, that was so good, can we watch another one? And they just do 2 cartoons back to back. And then there is a 45-second long shot of Pee-wee's dog eating dog food in extreme close-up. I'm not making it. It gets really, really bad.
Can I ask, did you say audition for a baseball team?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you picked that up.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Oh.
You still call intermission at plays halftime. So I'm not gonna.
One time,
oh, you guys are like the Sprats.
One time, Mark and I were improvising in Austin, Texas, and I said we have to go to basketball rehearsal. And out of the two of us, I have played way more sports than Mark has. I could not think of it in that moment.
Basketball rehearsal.
I have to go to basketball rehearsal.
Oh my God. All right, so we have our top 5. We previously had our top 6. We now have our top 5. Because it sounds like 45 seconds of dog food eating is eliminating Pee-wee.
Yeah, I love Pee-wee. Charlie will watch the heck out of it, but yeah, I don't think it's up there.
Can I pitch you why I think that Mickey Mouse Club should go? I don't doubt its star-making ability, and it's not a ding because it came back and it wasn't as good as the original or whatever. But if you watch the original Mickey Mouse Club, and they had those Disney science and nature shorts, that's real rough to watch, knowing how much of that was rigged. They're like, did you know that tigers like to jump off cliffs? Here's video of it. Must be true. Yep, that tiger's so happy leaping to its death. See you later.
Look, I'll agree. I think that the Mickey Mouse Club is all cake and no bread. And when they tried to give you bread, it was fictionalized bread.
Yeah. Plus, the original series is like, here's a bunch of white kids.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Well, that's what America. That's the only thing America had back then.
That's true. But it was an all-white country.
Yeah. You guys remember when we were an all-white country?
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
obviously.
content with that. You guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
all right.
fair.
So now we have our top 4, and boy, these are good and these are difficult. Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Wizard, and Reading Rainbow.
It's hard. It's hard to make a case against.
And now bear in mind, we have boiled our criteria down to one thing. And that is, did I do my child a service by showing them this show? Did I enrich their life?
But these all meet that criteria.
Sure.
I got them to read. I got them interested in science. I taught them the value of emotional intelligence and not being afraid to have emotions. And I taught them how to count to 5 in Spanish. I know that Sesame Street does more than that, but that was the first
They
thing
don't
I
teach
could
them how to
think
do
of.
it in Spanish. Are you thinking of Amigos? Do we need to put my show Amigos on this list?
Oh, yes, we do. We need to put it online immediately and available to everybody.
It's in a private Dropbox that Hal has.
I'll send both of you a link to that Dropbox so that you can watch it. It's something real special.
30 episodes, baby.
Still living off those residuals like a king.
Yeah, those PBS residuals.
You owe them money every time it is.
I would say that, okay, my case for eliminating Mr. Wizard, even though I do very much enjoy Mr. Wizard and I learned a lot about it, I think that more than the other shows on this list, Mr. Wizard was a very top-down sort of education. So, like, Mr. Wizard always had all the answers, and the kids were doofuses. And also, he would tell them that they were doofuses and tell them that they didn't know anything. And here, let me educate you.
Like, not in those words necessarily.
Sometimes he was cantankerous, but, like, I think that because the actual lessons can be transient sometimes, and in the case of science can even sort of evolve over time, I think, as we learn more and explore more. I think that, like, establishing a passion for science, it would be a much more noble goal for a show like that. And and I do think that Mr. Wizard did that to a certain extent for sure, but I don't think in terms of, like, showing kids great role models of, like, here are kids that also like science. Right. Here are kids that are also like, I mean, they like it enough to go over to an old man's house to learn about it. But like, that sort of top down thing, I don't think is necessarily the best for, like, instilling a passion
for
something.
That's, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that makes absolute sense.
So now we're down to Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and Reading Rainbow. I think we know who the 2 finalists are.
I feel bad, but, like, Reading Rainbow's it's a bronze medal, yo.
Here's why I think it doesn't measure up. I think that it is very hard. I remember 2 episodes of that show, and one of them I might have made up like those other shows. Might be a winky dink situation. One of them is the hat store where he puts on different hats and gets transported places. That one I know is real. Then the other one, I think there's one where he takes you behind the scenes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Am I imagining that? Or
it's a little self-indulgent.
Yeah, absolutely. They showed you how they did the teleportation effect.
I also have to wonder about, like, rewatchability. Like, if these shows are gonna be spanning time for kids of various generations, I wonder about Reading Rainbow holding up, because I think I was a kid, I didn't watch as much TV because I loved to read. I was reading all the time, and Reading Rainbow really did not stick with me. I mean, I recognized that it was a good show, but it just didn't have the staying power that a lot of these other shows
You should
did.
probably go read.
I mean, I just went and read.
I was also like a voracious reader as a child, and sometimes I would watch it to try and get recommendations. Did not read one book that was recommended by a child on that show because they all felt the same. Like the Matter of Creepy Hollow is about 3 kids who maybe saw a ghost, but don't take my word for it.
Man.
Or do you like porpoises? Here's a book.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, I don't think I do. Never mind.
Also, those kids were unreliable critics because all of them liked everything all the time.
Yeah.
No kid was like, I found this book derivative of the author's last word.
Do you want to know about making amends and giving over to a higher power? Here's an AA pamphlet that I found in the gutter, but don't take my word for it. There are 10 more steps waiting for you.
Do you know what thetans are?
These can. Don't take Zeno's word for it. Okay. So we haven't even talked about Sesame Street yet.
Fine.
Yeah. Wait,
Did you say it's fine?
Fine. I get it.
Why are you mad?
I'm not.
What's the matter?
No, I'm not mad. It's like so all encompassing, isn't it? I mean, like it's so big. I mean, I don't think that we need to do too much to highlight the great things that Sesame Street has done.
No.
As Sydney said, it's the only show that has like educational value, like scientifically demonstrated educational value. Although, wasn't there some research on
Daniel Tiger did. Yeah, too, actually. They did a study on emotional intelligence.
Sydney when I was pondering outside before we started recording, like how Sesame Street doesn't win, Sydney made a fairly compelling, there is one knock that I think you could expand to other areas of Sesame Street, but
I think, and a lot of people get really upset about this, and I'm not one of those, but everybody talks about when Elmo started on the show as a major downturn, and I don't think that. I don't hate on Elmo. Elmo's fine. Charlie likes Elmo fine. Of course, she's 3. But I do think that when I watch older episodes of Sesame Street and the newer ones with Charlie now, there's so much more Elmo, and that kind of like it's more similar to all the other shows that are on. It's more just kids stuff and being kind of silly, and that's good. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't belong there, but I feel like the balance is shifting away from the older Sesame Street that was more, I don't know, that was
more of an ensemble piece.
Exactly.
Yes.
What is Elmo's primary teaching function, I guess?
Elmo learns more than he teaches, really. I mean, I think that's the big difference, is that Sesame Street was a show about talking to kids, adults and adult characters, older characters and puppets and stuff talking to kids. And then Elmo was the kid that all of a sudden joined the show. And now he has friends on the show that are his age too, like Abby Cadabby and stuff that are also little kids. And so they're learning now in place of just the audience at home learning. So he, learns about having a good bedtime routine, or, the importance of sharing or whatever, but he's not teaching as much as he's the learner.
Did he steal a lot of the thunder away from every other Muppet on that show? Because it feels like Big Bird was a big child, so Big Bird was learning what it was to sort of grow up, and then Bert and Ernie were more about sharing and compromise and getting along with one another. And
they honestly, to me, in the post Elmo era, seem a little sad. Like I literally mean that, like, every once in a while, Telly will just hove into view, like, "Hey, I'm still here." Like, all right, Telly. Okay, you're fine. Kids don't love you, Telly.
I get so excited if I see Big Bird or Snuffy, because it's just they're not nearly as big a part of it, and it's very Elmo centric.
Yeah. Hashtag not my Sesame Street.
Yeah,
it really wasn't my Sesame Street.
No, I don't think Elmo existed when I watched, but I was there when Mr. Hooper died.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Boy, what a huge moment in television too. Like, kids have to know about this.
Yeah. I mean, they did dip it a lot more into that emotional intelligence in that moment when they held the whole special, and Big Bird singing "I Cried When Mr. Hooper Died," which is sadly a very catchy rhyme. At some point, somebody in the writer's room was like, "I got it," which is really depressing to think about. But
as a knock against Sesame Street, they did just like, since the HBO purchase, they cleared the deck of like several elderly cast members that have been with the show forever, and there is a cynical part of me that does wonder if part of the consideration was not hey, listen, we did the Mr. Hooper storyline already. I'm not sure how much more water there is in that particular well to go back to.
Man.
Maybe there's
all these
room to
Muppets
update
friends
it.
die.
Yeah. Big Bird singing, I cried for the 4th time this month.
Right, it's been a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, Sesame Street is a juggernaut. They teach so many things, but at the same time, like you said, they've declined. Now HBO has them. It's completely different. It became the Elmo show for a while. And now, like, the things that I loved in the show probably aren't there anymore. I don't know if the giant pinball machine still shows up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's gone. Is Forgetful Jones still there?
Now, it is, I will say this, it is still tremendously entertaining.
Okay.
There are new characters that have come along that are cool and interesting, and there are a lot of, like, really, they do a lot of up-to-date pop culture stuff that's fun. There was
Cookie Monster does spoofs of every movie that comes out.
Comes down the pipe.
Yeah,
so that's really fun.
Only cookie centric.
They had a fake Comic-Con called Numericon. Is that what it was? That was basically a Comic-Con on Sesame Street that had, like, Doctor 2 was there. Everyone was unveiling the new Doctor 2, and he came out and it was very fun. That was fun.
Yeah, they definitely adjust to whatever time period they're in. So they remain sort of part of the zeitgeist. They don't like, Mr. Rogers is timeless and Sesame Street is timely.
So,
yes, that's a good point.
What is more important? Do kids care about timeliness?
I think they probably do. That's the thing I keep coming back to is I have not, and I don't know because I haven't tested this. I have not shown Charlie an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I don't know if she'd watch it.
Right.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it would hold up today.
Huh.
I don't know. Maybe it would. Maybe it would be just as powerful, but
we may just be getting nostalgic for our own childhoods. And as wonderful as that show is, if Sesame Street, if society changes and children, the way to rear children changes, then Sesame Street changes.
It just occurred to me, this is a real bummer.
What?
That I'm like the guy who walks into a toy store and goes, all this sucks. Where's Crystar? Like, and that's if I advocate for Mr. Rogers, then I'm saying, like, it doesn't matter. Kids today don't know what's good for them. They should be watching that Mr. Rogers rather than saying, hey, this is something timely that's still speaking to children and that's evolving in ways that I don't like because the stuff that I knew isn't there anymore. That doesn't mean it's become a bad show.
In many ways, it's a framework for like a framework for storytelling, whereas Mr. Rogers was that thing that it's like Saturday Night Live, where, you've got this framework and things change as tastes and styles and knowledge of development changes. And that's what this is. Like, Sesame Street introduced I love my hair, which just came out of a necessity of, like, oh, little black girls have, this little black girl who came home to her dad and was like, people, were not saying great things about my hair. And he was like, you have great hair. I'm going to write this, song for the show, which is how that song came about. And that song is uplifting and powerful and great. So
yeah,
that's a great mark that's one example of what Sesame Street can do.
It's true though. I will say on the Mr. Rogers end, while maybe the show kids aren't watching today and aren't familiar with it, as someone who was raised on the show and is now parenting a child, my parenting is influenced by watching Mr. Rogers when I was a kid. I think I am aware of things and make decisions about things, and the way that I encourage Charlie it's okay that you're sad, be sad. We don't have to cheer up and move on. Let's be sad right now and talk about why we're sad. And that is because of, not only, but largely because of that influence in my life. So I don't know if the TV show reaching beyond.
I think that's very powerful, but I think the power of that is more about the lessons and the spirit of the man which I would argue is continued in a beautiful fashion in Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
That's true. That's
but
true.
like if that show, if Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood were the be all end all, then Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood wouldn't necessarily need to be. I mean, there's obviously like logistical issues there, but like I think that the power of those lessons, I think I would put above the stuff you learn on Sesame Street because I think it's more important.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the fact that those lessons can transmute to a new TV show. You know what I mean? Like it's almost
makes the show less important.
Slightly. I mean, like not to detract
the man
from
and
it.
the meanings.
Right.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That makes sense.
Like
That's
if
fair.
we're picking best dude, like for sure, Fred Rogers is up there. But I think the fact that Sesame Street is still Sesame Street and is like weathered. Like you think about it, like kids today versus kids when Sesame Street launched 30 some odd years ago. Like that's unfathomable. Like it is staggering. It is a staggering achievement that show has remained where so many other shows have fallen by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we have our answer.
All right.
It's the most boring, predictable one humanly possible.
I know.
Why did this last an hour and 18 minutes? It should have lasted 30 seconds. What are we doing
welcome
here?
to We Got This.
Yeah, this is what we do. Frequently, we know what the answer is going to be, but we have to get to the bronze and silver and runner-ups.
But now it's official,
Yeah,
right? Now it's
official
scientific.
for all
This is
time.
it.
Yeah.
Well, it will be right now.
People of the world, I don't like the new remix theme song. I don't care for all this Elmo business. I don't like all the new stuff.
Grandpa, take your pills.
I want pinball machines that are animated. I want a guy falling down some stairs holding pies. And I want a kid taking his llama to the dentist. And inexplicably in 1970s New York, I want parents just sending their child to the store to buy a bunch of groceries that child has to remember. What happens if the kid doesn't remember to get a quart of milk and a stick of butter and a loaf of bread and a dozen eggs? I don't know, but it probably involves a pillowcase and some oranges. Guys, Sesame Street is going to be 50 years old in 2 years. For almost 50 years, it has been a standard bearer in children's programming. It revolutionized the game and it gave us lovable characters. They waited to license. And here's something interesting is Jim Henson allowed the licensing of the Muppet characters on that show, which he owned, only if the profits went directly back into the workshop for programming. So it became a self-sustaining business even when public television money wasn't coming on time. When they would get all their entire $2 million grant at the end of the year, they found a way to keep it going. And now they're on HBO, so you can watch The Sopranos at first and then just hop over and see what Elmo and Zoe are up to. That's the staying power of the greatest kid show of all time. You knew it before we even started the episode. So if you have just find Mark, just send him, I'll give you his home address, send him letters.
Yep.
If you have a problem with there's something that you didn't hear, but the greatest kid show of all time is Sesame Street Asked and Answered.
Justin, Sydney, thank you for coming on our show. This was a treat. We've been trying to do this for months.
Oh, thanks for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Please tell everybody about. I mean, I can't imagine there are people listening to our show that don't also listen to Sawbones, but if they're not, they should be. Please tell them about the show.
For sure.
It's a medical history podcast. Sydney's a physician, and she teaches me about all the weird, terrible ways that we've tried to fix people over the years.
And Justin gets grossed out and freaks out about it.
That's the show.
That was awesome. Everybody, please listen to Sawbones and tell everybody where they can find you online. Where should they be looking to find both your podcast episodes and live shows and Twitter, anything, everything. Plug it all.
McElroy Shows, MCELROY shows.com has links to pretty much everything our family does. Sydney also does a show with her sisters called Still Buffering, another great Maximum Fun product about teen life. And also on Max Fun is my show, My Brother, Me, and The Adventure Zone, and we have a lot of shows. So McElroyshows.com. And then on Twitter, I'm at Justin McElroy.
And I'm at Sydney McElroy.
SYDNEE.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, thank you again for joining us. Please, will you come back at some point, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, we'd love
Nailed
to.
it. That is a binding contract. Thank you to Robert Monroe for suggesting this topic, but there's so many others and we want to hear from you. So shoot us an email. We got this podcast at gmail.com or come to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/we got this podcast.
Or you can check out the Maximum Fun subreddit, or you can check out Twitter. We are on Twitter at We Got This Tweets. Thank you to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively.
Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kelman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And of course, thank you to you, our listeners. We would love to sit and watch Sesame Street with you. How much do I love you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 million units of loving you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.